David Hume was an 18th-century Scottish philosopher known for his work in skepticism, empiricism, and moral philosophy. He believed that human knowledge comes from experience and that reason alone cannot prove things like cause and effect, morality, or even the existence of the self. His ideas influenced modern science and philosophy, but they were also highly controversial. Many saw his views as dangerous because they challenged religion, traditional ethics, and the way people understand reality. Even today, his work sparks debate about knowledge, free will, and morality. One of David Hume's most important ideas is empiricism, which is the belief that all knowledge comes from sensory experience. He argued that people do not have innate ideas and that everything we know is based on what we see, hear, and feel. This idea is controversial because it rejects the idea that reason or divine revelation can give humans knowledge. Critics argue that empiricism makes it hard to explain abstract concepts like mathematics, which seem to exist independently of experience. Others worry that if knowledge is only based on experience, then people may never be able to truly understand the nature of reality beyond what their senses tell them. Hume's problem of induction questions how humans can justify their belief that past experiences can predict the future. He argued that people assume that because something has happened before, it will happen again, but there is no logical proof that this must be true. For example, just because the sun has risen every day in the past does not mean it will always rise in the future. This idea is controversial because it challenges the foundation of science, which is based on making predictions from past observations. Critics argue that if we cannot trust induction, then scientific knowledge becomes uncertain, which would make it difficult to rely on things like medicine, engineering, and everyday reasoning. Hume's skepticism about causation argues that humans do not directly observe causes. They only see events happening in sequence. For example, when one billiard ball hits another, people assume that the first ball caused the second to move, but Hume argued that this connection is something the mind creates, rather than something that can be directly observed. This idea is controversial because it questions one of the most basic ways people understand the world. If causation is just a mental habit, rather than a real connection, it raises doubts about science, morality, and even personal responsibility. Some critics believe that Hume's skepticism goes too far, making it impossible to trust even basic facts about reality. Hume's idea of moral sentimentalism argues that morality is not based on reason, but on human emotions. He believed that people decide what is right and wrong based on their feelings rather than logical principles. For example, people feel sympathy for others and naturally want to help them, which is why they see kindness as a virtue. This idea is controversial because it challenges the belief that morality is based on universal laws or religious principles. Critics argue that if morality is just based on feelings, then it could change depending on culture, personal preference, or even temporary emotions. Others worry that Hume's approach makes it difficult to say why some actions, like murder or theft, are always wrong. One of the most controversial aspects of Hume's work is his views on race. In one of his writings, he suggested that non-European peoples were naturally inferior to Europeans. This idea has been widely criticised for promoting racist beliefs and justifying colonialism. Some defenders of Hume argue that these views were common in his time and should not define his entire philosophy. However, others believe that his racism is an important part of understanding his work, especially since he was so committed to questioning human reasoning. This idea is controversial because it raises questions about whether a philosopher's personal beliefs should affect how their ideas are studied and respected today.